Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Lone Screenplay Nominee Podcast, where we talk about films that were solely nominated for an Oscar in the writing categories, as well as our Lone Screenplay winners. I'm your host, Matthew Anderson, and today we have Sam Meltzer back on the podcast, who was previously on for Happy Go Lucky, what feels like 1,000 years ago, honestly. So how you doing today, Sam?
I'm doing very well. Nice to sit down. I've gone on a run and biked and lifted today, so there's been a lot of movement, and I haven't had a minute to sit and talk, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to chat just for that reason, but also to talk about I think, a really fantastic, underrated movie.
Ooh. Okay, yeah, we have some interesting opinions already about this. Okay. Yeah, so I could imagine also, since with you running around and going to the gym and such, you have like a nice cool AC on you.
Yeah, and it's been
Okay.
quite hot this summer.
Yeah.
Today's been fine. 4th of July was really foggy and cool, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Um, but generally, it's been upwards of 100 degrees, so
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. I was yesterday, not to go off on a tangent here, but I actually went over. I spent my 4th of July day over at one of my aunt's place in a pool. So I was there for a couple hours. That knocked me out because I thought, all right, well, we're doing this movie that Sam and I are going to cover on Sunday night. I'll have plenty of time, so when I get back from the pool, I'll watch the movie. And I was like, nope. I was like, I just want to go straight to sleep because I want to give this film my undivided attention. And then when you texted me, you're like, can we do it at this time? I'm like, I'm actually like almost done with the movie. So like everything just came like the stars were aligned and just everything came together perfectly. So
Great.
yeah, that's what happens with some of these episodes. Sometimes like the timing's good, and this
And
one
then
ended up being pretty
sometimes it
good.
might be a nightmare and take a long time to schedule, so.
Yeah, or yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, and I would have had you on a bit earlier, except there were other guests I need to get through, and there were some scheduling conflicts as well that I'm pretty sure it prevented me from even trying to contact you. So when you got that message, you must have been like, oh wow, okay, Matt wants to cover an episode I asked to do for like years ago, and I'm like, here we are. So yeah.
Right on.
Um, yeah. So anyway, so today we're here to discuss Sex, Lies, and Videotape from 1989. Before we begin our discussion, I just want to clarify to our audience that we will be doing a full spoiler-filled discussion on this film. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. I think it's on Criterion as we speak. They're running their whole month, from like end of June to end of July. 50% off discount for the Criterion discs. So you can now get it for like $20, I think, on Criterion, or you can go to your local Barnes and Noble and get a copy there if they have one. That is, but that's neither here nor there. So, anyways, so yeah. So with that said, we'll just get started on what the premise of the film selected today, in case you are not aware of what it is or just need a refresher. So the film revolves around Anne, who is a frustrated wife, enters into counseling due to a troubled marriage. Unbeknownst to her, her husband John has begun an affair with her sister. And when John's best friend Graham arrives, his penchant for interviewing women about their sex lives forever changes John and Anne's rocky marriage. Some good, some bad. But yeah, you get the drift. And so Sex, Lies, and Videotapes was written and directed by Steven Soderbergh, in which this was his narrative feature directorial debut. He had done a couple of shorts, I think, prior to this, and I think he had done some sort of documentary right before this film. I'll look it up in a bit what it was. But yeah, so the film stars James Spader, Andy McDowell, Peter Gallagher, and Laura San Giacomo. And that's pretty much the ensemble. It's just like that's all we get. We get like a barfly at the bartender where the sister works at, and we get the therapist of Anne that she'll appear there. But for the most part, it's just these four actors. So yeah. So Sam, what did you think of the movie? Because you were like, yeah, I want to discuss this movie.
I really love this movie. I've liked it more and more each time I've watched it too. I think this is my third watch. And
Mm.
culturally, historically speaking, whatever you want to call it, this is such a unique kind of transitional period type movie, if you want to call it that, because a lot of people think about the 70s. The 60s were this big decade for so much social upheaval and change. And then there's this great essay by Tom Wolfe called The Me Decade from 1976, which talks about the 1970s as focusing more on mental health and therapy and individualism, the exploration of the self. How intense can we focus on ourselves? What does fulfillment look like? What does self-realization look like? What does self-actualization look like? All of these themes that become so much a part of the mainstream. But then the Reaganite 80s had this weird shift back into a kind of cultural conservatism, and it was disruptive and violent at the same time, and it was just a very tumultuous decade. This movie was released at the absolute height of the AIDS epidemic. So in America, there was a lot of sexual conflict. And I think this movie was really remarkable for being such a such a tender, introspective look at mental health and sexuality, but it doesn't feel woe is me. It doesn't really pay attention to itself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there isn't much of a musical score. It's very dry and sparse. The tone is super cold, and it's not flashy in any of the technical elements. A lot of the sequences in this movie are just two characters sitting and talking to each other. There's little editing. So you have this voyeuristic you have such a voyeuristic technique in the filmmaking, which obviously complements the subject matter of the film, which is voyeurism and sexuality and understanding people's own interpretations of sex and their bodies in a very personal, isolated way. And I think that it is such a smart screenplay to talk about what we're here to talk about, because Soderbergh does such a good job at really focusing on such individual components of the characters and how they interact with each other, and it allows the movie to feel so honest, and without, as I said, paying attention to itself. It doesn't feel self-important once. It never feels like it's gloating in being innovative. It feels pretty honest and raw and genuine, and that's why I think it's so successful.
You mentioned the music. It doesn't have much of a score, and that was something I actually noticed while watching the movie. Was like I don't think the music, like any kind of score of sorts, sort of sets in until right when the sister talks about her discussions on sex in front of Graham. And then it happens again when Anne is, being asked to be or asked Graham, like, hey, can you videotape me so we could, as I could answer your questions. And yeah, and also something I just realized, because I just finished the movie, like I said, less than an hour ago. I just finished it, and I'm just realizing, like, this film works about as well as you could get, to where you could, if you want to, you could adapt this to the stage if you could. Like, there's some changes here and there you could change around, but for the most part, a film like this requires two important elements, which is the script and acting, and it's a good thing that they both work, because if they don't, then it's just very much like you had said, it's like it could have easily gone with the woe is me, like, don't you feel bad or feel ashamed of what I'm going through and such. And I'm even thinking about other lesser films that came out after this that focused on the marital problems of, like, the dramas that think like, oh, we're talking about something deep and meaningful, but in reality it's like, no, you're not. You're just a bunch of pretentious art students talking about random shit. Whereas this one actually does have something to say, I feel. And even with just the character dynamics are really interesting. I love the some of the blocking and directing in the movie. Like, it's subdued, as you said, because there's not a lot of flashy camera work or flashy editing that Steven Soderbergh would be associated with later on in his career, with stuff like Traffic. Out of Sight was another one that used a lot of flashy work. The Ocean's trilogy as well, and other ones I'm probably forgetting. But yeah, no, it's just a really interesting movie that works because of the performances and uh, clever screenplay. And it's one where I was very appreciative that, once again, like, he never asked us to empathize with these characters. It's just voyeuristic, as you said so well, Sam, to where it's like, that's the kind of the mode he's putting the story in. And he's having us almost peek into someone else's private life. And by having it that way and making it feel so natural, it makes us connect with these characters even more, despite them doing a bunch of shady stuff in their own ways.
For sure. I like that you mention some of his other movies, especially in context with this being his debut, because I always think of Soderbergh as a very efficient filmmaker.
Yeah.
Traffic and Aaron Brockovich and the Ocean's movies, even the recent ones like The Presence or whatever it was called, there's something kind of snappy and zippy about the tone. There's one technical component that's meant to be a little showy, or there's a big focus on one aspect of the movie to really bring out the sum of its parts. Traffic has the movie that he won his Oscar for has the most obvious on the nose color changing scheme ever.
Yep.
And I love it. I think it works
Yeah.
really well for
Same.
its own reasons, but it's very, very different from Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which has nothing showy about it at all. And I wouldn't call it an efficient movie. I'd actually probably call it inefficient because it's not trying to get a point across. It's not really trying to get us from point A to point B. Towards the beginning of the movie, I almost felt like it was paced like a thriller because it's so dry and empty, and you have all these scenes with men and women talking to each other about sex, and there's something eerie about it, but it doesn't lead to horror or violence. It just leads to more emptiness and more self-reveal. So I think it's so subversive to watch this movie now, looking at it through the lens of Soderbergh's career, because this is not the kind of movie that he would go on to make ever again.
No, it's not.
It.
Yeah. Like, even when you like, I guess really, like, the only kind of, like, quote unquote violence you would see is like John punching Graham at the house, but that's about it. That's the only kind of, like, any, like, physical violence you get out of the movie. And I do like that it is paced like a thriller, and even the fact that there is no there's not a lot of a score to it too. Even in those intense moments, like John showing up at the house and the camera is framed almost like it's handy cam, almost like the guy operating is just moving it along. He doesn't have it on a what do you call it, like a dolly shot. He doesn't have it on any sort of fancy trickery stuff like that, but it's like handheld. And I like that the score isn't like, here's how you should feel in the moment. It's like, no, you already have all the information, you have all the context of what's going on in the scene from a writing standpoint and from a performance standpoint of how you're supposed to feel. And because a lot of lesser directors, even after this, would just over enunciate and be like, this is how you should feel in the moment, with like an overbearing score to it. Even in the bigger budgeted movies, they do that to be like, oh, our audience is so dumb, whatever, let's throw like this like operatic score to it to like heighten the tension a bit. It's like, no, it's not that at all. It doesn't treat the audience like idiots, which I appreciated from Steven Soderbergh. But you're right though, he can, like, this is something that he hasn't done ever. Like, from the very few films that I've seen, I haven't seen his entire filmography, so I haven't gone through his other great stuff or even some of the bad stuff, because I know every director has at least one bad movie on their plate. Even the greatest directors we tout is like, well, okay, they made like one lesser film compared to the others, but he's still really good with his directing here. It's subdued, it's subtle, and it works to tell the story, and it isn't just like, it almost felt like, because I was reading up some of this, how with the amount of time he was given on the film and what limited resources he had, it felt like he got exactly the kind of film he wanted on such a small scale. And again, it goes back to these performances too. James Spader's really good, which I don't think I've ever really seen him in anything outside of like some television stuff. And then he voiced like a villain for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then Annie McDowell, who I think I've seen her in like Ready or Not, but that's about it. Maybe I could be wrong. Oh, Groundhog Day she did, but she's really good in the movie too. I was really impressed by her, and then yeah.
Yeah, she was known for a lot of those populist rom-coms in the 90s. Um, and I don't think, she's such a great actress, but I think in this movie she does a really good job because she seems to be comfortable playing this kind of character where she's a bit insecure and emotionally challenged. Um, she really sells her in every scene. I really like the topic of home video and self-recording because in the 80s and 90s it was the first time when families could have home videos and record each other in a very domestic, personal way. And I don't know if you've seen Cronenberg's Videodrome, but that is kind of the horror alternative to Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which came out, I think, just a year or two before this.
Okay.
Where you see people having very personal situation, but there's a voyeurism to it. That one's obviously a lot more twisted and fucked up and terrifying.
Videodrome you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
I definitely want to check it out for sure. Now that you mentioned it. Okay, I'll check it out
It's a
after.
great one. But I like how this feels almost, maybe this is a reach, but it feels almost proto internet, proto maybe pornographic sites, Substack, Reddit,
Yeah.
these kinds of sites where people talk about their sexual fantasies and their interests in sexuality and how they relate to other people, and how do viewers respond to that? Who are the who's going to be looking at this information that you publish?
Yeah.
Is it people who are genuinely interested and empathetic, or is it people who are going to get off on it? Like it opens up this conversation about sexuality, not just in terms of the act, but in terms of a kind of meta referential understanding of sex. Do we like it? Do we like how we think we look when we do it? I think it is quite daring and bold to challenge our perceptions of these questions, especially for a movie from the 80s, which, I don't know, a lot of 80s movies are either really rampant about their sexuality and have such glossy, muscular, triumphant images of men and then very sexualized image of women. But this is super straight up, and it isn't a sexy movie at all, I'd argue. There's very little sexual activity in the movie itself. So I think by kind of demystifying it and showing it in such a bare bones way, it communicates something very jarring and scary about how we view ourselves in sexual relations and how we look at other people who engage in sex, if that makes sense.
It does. Actually, yeah, come to think of it, videotapes like the camcorder you see there, that was on the rise around that time, wasn't it?
Totally. I mean, these are all new ideas. Being able to record your own tapes and have them on VHS and watch them as many times as possible, that's every day for us now.
Yeah.
But in those days, this was novel. So I don't know, I'm struck by how almost primal it feels in the realm of online and video and self-taping.
In a way, it actually, like, even though the technology does make it feel like it was made of its time, it does in a way, well, I don't know if you'd agree with me on this, but it feels very timeless in a sort of way. In that, like you said so well, where it's like this was around the time where videotapes were starting to become, like this is like, hey, you could actually use videotapes at your house. You don't need to do it on like celluloid film. You could just put a tape in, press record, boom, the camera's going, and do whatever you want. When with this case, yeah, it does a really good job with that, and even presenting these situations as a matter of fact. It's very much your day-to-day life situations, adding on to what these characters are talking about and what they're going through. One of my favorite parts of the movie was I loved how they established these characters in the film, like when Anne's talking with her therapist about garbage in the world, and even with how she is she's talking about how she's never masturbated before, or, done had any of those like perverted thoughts of sorts, even during the start of her marriage and such. All the while we're intercutting with Graham, who's at the gas station. He's shaving and he's driving into the town, and then we see John hook up with Cynthia, who's Anne's sister in the movie. And I liked how they show all the it's a visual medium experience. Filmmakers show, don't tell. Because I like that they actually show all this while it was intercutting between and talking with her therapist, and that's something I appreciate about films like this, that are like, hey, again, we're not going to treat you like idiots or you're 5 years old, where we're going to spell everything out for you. Rather just show you exactly how these interactions are, and even the dynamics they have with each other, like how we see already, Cynthia's, curiosity sort of gets the better of her of sorts, because that starts the whole dominoes falling of like of Anne finding out about what happened, John and Cynthia having an affair. John's pissed about the fact that Cynthia went to Graham and did a videotape, and then he's even pissed when his wife does one with him as well. So yeah, it was really interesting to see that come into play. And even for a movie that's 90 minutes long, it's like there's no. You would think on paper, if you presented me this script, Sam, and showed me here's the whole story beat by beat, I'm like, there's no way it's going to be that interesting or that entertaining without feeling so cliched or been there, done that kind of mentality. But it's like, no, there's like when we got to not Anne, it was Cynthia on the tape for the first time. I was like, holy crap, we're at the halfway mark of the movie. Like we're at the halfway mark. I'm like,
it's such a tight 90 or 100 minutes too. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's super.
Yeah.
That's where, when I say Soderbergh is efficient, that is where it comes out here, because this could not be over 2 hours.
No.
It would get so boring. I'd get sick of it. But you mentioned the been there, done that trope. I also think it's interesting to recognize that this is a Sundance movie, and it really feels like a Sundance movie because of how many movies came after it that feel like it. I don't know if you've heard of Go Fish, which is a Rose Trosh like indie movie from the 90s. A lot of Gregoraki movies like Mysterious Skin, even The Living End. Later queer movies from the 2010s that premiered at Sundance, like Pariah and Stranger on the Lake. There's another 90s movie called The Opposite of Sex. I think Sex, Lies, and Videotape is the blueprint for so much of so many movies that came after in the 21st century. I feel like every year there are several indie movies that come out at these festivals that are about people's understandings of sexuality and desire and how they communicate with each other. And this is where it started, and this movie won the Palme d'Or, which is so awesome.
We'll definitely talk about the award section for this in a bit, but I also want to say, not in terms of the ideas of what Sex, Lies, and Videotapes is doing, but even with just how it's a bunch of people talking in small rooms about ideas and theories. Not that this was like the first one to do it, but to go back to your point of what you said about independent films, of like this being a blueprint for future films like this. You could argue Quentin Tarantino kind of started with this kind of mentality with his own films, with Reservoir Dogs and
Didn't Reservoir Dogs premiere at Sundance?
It might have, actually. That's a very good question. Yeah, let me see real quick. Reservoir Dogs. It actually might have premiered at Sundance. Let me see. Yep, it premiered there 2 or 3 years after this. Yeah, that's good eye, Sam. That's good, because I didn't I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good thing. Also,
I love how secretly important this movie is, because that's by underrated, because it actually didn't. It was very profitable. A lot of people love this movie. It's a very well liked movie. Not that it's underseen, but I don't think people understand how significant it is in the context of indie filmmaking.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I should also point out, since I forgot to mention this earlier, It's Steven Soderbergh's first film. Like it was a documentary film. It was a concert film on 9012 Live, which was on the band Yes. Um, and uh, it he did a whole documentary about those guys. And yeah, so that was his like first like real directorial debut, but this was his first narrative. So anyways, but no, yeah, yeah, no, it's just as you said, it's a very influential film in its own right, and I hope more people check this out, if nothing else. Like, obviously we've gone through some of the like a couple of them already, but
But it's not even a movie where if someone had told me what happened, it
yeah,
wouldn't dissuade me from wanting to watch it. Like, I'm not watching this movie for the plot.
no, like you're there for the right. It's really there for the ideas the film is presenting and the performances.
Which are
Um,
really so fantastic. The actress who plays Cynthia, Laura San Giacomo, she's so good in this movie, especially during that scene you were talking about where it's her videotape.
yeah,
That scene is so good, one of the best in the movie. Good on BAFTA for nominating her. Good
yeah.
on Golden Globe. They did the right thing.
Yeah. I also love I'm glad you brought up that scene because that's actually one of my favorite parts of the film, not just because of what they're discussing in that scene that makes it feel so natural and personal to these characters that make them feel so alive, but even with how it's blocked. They could have easily just had these characters be so, nonchalant, very bland, monotone delivered performances from James Spader and the actress who played Cynthia. Instead, they have her move around a bit, even with her like cuddling up on the couch and things like that. And James, puts the camera onto the side of the chair across from her, and then moves on the ground and sort of looks at her while he's laying there and asking these questions, like a voyeur, filmmaker
Right,
of sorts.
totally.
But yeah, no, it was really interesting, and I also love. I don't know if you noticed this on your watches, because like I said, this is the first time I'm seeing this. I'm very glad you picked it, by the way. Um, I love another element of the film that I thought immediately I was like, okay, I think I'm in for like a pretty good movie, was when they established the therapist and Anne talking to each other on the couch, and then the therapist is in his own little chair writing down notes for her about some things to jot down. And when Graham shows up at Anne's house for the first time, he's in that type of chair, and she's sitting on the couch, very much similar, and they're discussing with each other almost like a therapy patient um, discussion of type. And it was just something and they're asking each other questions that you would typically have a patient being asked by by their therapist, kind of thing. And I just thought was like very subtle and very small details, but it's like it adds up in the end. It's like just enough things add up, just as much as the smaller things bring a film down for your experience or like what you thought of the film. It could also raise it even more for said experience. But I was very appreciative of that. But yeah, so any of the other performances you wanted to highlight besides the two sisters?
Yeah, Peter Gallagher is good too. He
Yeah,
definitely has the least to do, but I really think Laura gives the best performance in the movie. Um, the sequence where Andy McDowell and James Spader towards the beginning are at the diner. Um, it's a very simple scene. They're just talking. I think he asks her to share a deep secret or something silly like that.
yeah,
But the scene is shot in a very dynamic way. There are shots from behind the counter at the diner. It's switching between them in four different angles. It's never static. It is static, but it never feels like it's immobile. You get the emotions from the characters and the performances are enhanced by the subtle changes in the editing and the camera work during sequences like that, which make up the entire movie. Um,
yeah.
so I think it's just a generally really impressive movie that never gives itself credit for that or pays attention to itself, which makes it all the more impressive.
Yeah, and I would say in terms of like if you're looking for any sort of like flashy photography, because there's not really a lot in here. Like if you're coming in here expecting like a Tony Scott film or like a Michael Bay film, you're not that is not the kind of film this is, and I'm very grateful for that, Steven Soderbergh. But I guess like the only like I guess air quotes flashy kind of work you see is after Cynthia shows up to or Cynthia leaves Graham's apartment and calls uh, John, Peter Gallagher's character, to come over and have sex. Um, and you see that you see him, the camera's sort of tilted sideways of like him laying in bed, and then she enters the frame as well. And like that's really it's more of like a blocking thing that makes it dynamic and interesting, as opposed to like any sort of camera movements. But that's probably like the only scene I can think of on the top of my head that had any kind of like flashy work. But again, it's more subdued. It's still in that subdued area, which is what Steven Soderbergh does a really good job with. Again, it matches the whole tone of the film and what he's trying to accomplish really well with the movie. And yeah, and no, like I said, I'm very happy you chose this movie, Sam, because I was very impressed with the movie. Not that
I'm
I was
so,
doubting
I'm
you.
so glad I introduced you because
Yeah,
it really is. It's I don't know if it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's certainly a great one that I could see becoming one of my favorite movies of all time with more rewatches.
definitely. Yeah. And yeah, I definitely want to revisit this down the road because like I said, this is already even just us talking about the movie alone. I'm like, and how influential it is, how great the performances are, the ideas that Steven Soderbergh came in, and especially with how, despite it feeling in a certain way dated because of when it was made, it still feels timeless with its ideas, with what Steven Soderbergh is putting in the film. And you had even brought up like Videodrome does sort of the opposite way of like, here's the nightmare fueled version of it. It makes me be like, yeah, I'm definitely going to revisit this down the road, and hopefully it's soon. Um, and yeah, and one other note I did want to bring up, because there's other notes I could bring up with the movie that I was impressed with. But I love another scene I actually loved in the movie was where John and Anne are in bed and they're up in the middle of the night, and Anne accuses John of having an affair. And what I love about it is that they're so fed up with each other. Like it's very tense. It's almost like you can cut it. You can cut the tension with a knife. And once again, no music in it whatsoever. It's just again a good script and a really good good performances from these actors. And I love that they feel their tension from each other, but they come up with such phony bullshit excuses as to why they're so tense, even though they're like, yeah, I'm tense because there's like a important meeting coming up, and the wife's like, well, I'm just so irritable because I have nothing to do at the house and I have all these fantasies and I'm thinking about those starving kids in the world. And in reality, it's like they're not really buying each other's bullshit. I got the feeling about,
Yeah,
which was
that
really
was,
good, and I like
that was
that.
a great scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's like I miss that kind of writing and that kind of, performances where it wasn't just again, it's not treating the audience like 5-year-olds. They're treating the audience like adults. Like this is a conversation you would hear from a married couple.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't really have anything else really to say. I mean, I know Sam and we kind of spoiled some things here and there, but like I said, this is one where it's like, you could I still urge people to watch this movie, to be like, you got to watch it for the performances. If nothing else, you should check it out just to see how far Steven Soderbergh has gone, like has gone through from this movie to again the stuff we already mentioned, Out of Sight, the Ocean's trilogy, Traffic, Aaron Brockovich, Black Hat, I think he had done, or Black Bag, I think it was, with Michael Fassbender and Kate Blanchett.
Mhm. And the
I haven't.
which was
I'm
the
sorry.
horror movie. There's a horror movie he made a couple years ago, or maybe just last year, called The Presence, which
Okay.
follows the perspective of an unknown ghost or presence while this family moves into a big suburban house. And
Huh.
it's a very weird movie, but I kind of liked it.
Interesting. Yeah, but yeah, Steven Soderbergh is definitely a filmmaker that I need to watch more of his films for sure. Because I still haven't seen Aaron Brockovich, and there's a couple other stuff like King of the Hill. I hear is pretty good. The Limey, I think, was one he had directed. I think. But yeah, hopefully I get around to these soon. Because yeah, I've always found Steven Soderbergh to be an interesting filmmaker. But again, just to see where he started from and where he is now, it's like he's got some good movies, you know. So yeah. So yeah. So unless there's anything else you want to discuss about the film itself, we could just move on into the awards discussion if that's all right with you.
Let's do it.
All right. So, as Sam mentioned, Sex, Lies, and Videotapes had premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, winning the Audience Award Dramatic Prize, and even screened at the 42nd Cannes Film Festival, where it won the Palme d'Or and Best Actor prizes for James Spader. And the film would go on and become a box office hit, making over $36 million on a budget of $1.2 million. Which is nuts. It's actually kind of nuts. I mean, I get it. Like, it's only four people discussing in small rooms, but even then, it's like it's still nuts that a movie like this was such a big
It would
hit.
never happen now.
Yeah, even with something like Obsession and Backrooms, is like, well, that's horror
It,
adjacent. We're
those
talking like
movies, in
dramas.
order for any movie to make money now, it has to be an event.
Yeah, yeah, or just be like really lucky with how small scaled the budget is. Yeah. But yeah, but the film would garner award success as it got two BAFTA nominations, three Golden Globe nominations. It won the lead actress prize for Annie McDowell at the LA Film Critics group. Kudos to you guys. Won four of its five categories at the Independent Spirit Award, where it won picture, director, lead actress, supporting actress. It didn't win lead actor though. That went to Matt Dillon for Drugstore Cowboy, I think. Um, yeah. So and the film also got a WGA nomination for original screenplay and an Oscar nomination for original screenplay as well. However, Sex, Lies, and Videotape had lost the category at the Oscars to Dead Poet Society, and was also up against When Harry Met Sally, which I already covered on the episode What Feels Like Forever. But yeah, go ahead and check that out as well. That was already the discussion we did. A really good discussion, I would say, for that film. Do the Right Thing was also nominated,
Ooh,
and Crimes and Misdemeanors.
wow. Okay, I
Yeah,
did not look at this lineup before, but jeez,
yeah,
this is a legendary
yeah.
best original screenplay lineup.
Yeah. Like
all, all
any
five
of
of them are amazing. I mean,
yeah,
Dead Poet Society winning, like, what are you gonna do about that? You can't really go
yeah,
against it. And then
yeah,
like a Woody Allen movie, not one of his best, but a very good one, I would argue. Do the
yeah,
Right Thing is one of the best movies of the 80s. Sex, Lies, and Videotape and When Harry Met Sally are like also like two of the best movies of the 80s. So this is
yeah.
just a pretty unstoppable list. I don't know what else was in contention, but I'm glad that nothing else was nominated because
Yeah,
this is nice. This is a very nice five.
yeah. I haven't seen so I would have if I had time from the time I asked you to be on the show and then to today. If I had time, I probably would have gotten around to Crimes and Misdemeanors. That's the only one I'm missing from the
And
list.
it is
Um,
probably the one I would rank the last of the bunch,
okay.
but it's still great and I do recommend it. And I think Martin Landau was also nominated. If
Yep.
Yeah,
Best Supporting Actor, because I
very
remember Ebert and Siskel were on. I think they were the ones who were like, "Why is he nominated in supporting when he should be a lead in the film?"
right. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but no, this is a great lineup.
Yeah.
Honestly, like this is really good.
And
I would
not only are do we have like just a solid list of movies. Dead Poet Society, Do the Right Thing, and When Harry Met Sally are generally beloved American classics that
oh
the
yeah,
average person has probably seen or at least heard of. So this isn't some obscured lineup. This is a
yeah.
very solid, robust group of movies that all of them are timeless in their own way.
This isn't like a Melvin and Howard situation where it's
Well,
like we have a box office bomb, and then we have a couple of obscured
what was nominated the
international.
Melvin and Howard one?
Uh,
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay. Private Benjamin is fantastic, and Fame is also fantastic. And My American Uncle is fascinating, but I've never
We
heard
did
of.
an episode on it.
Yeah.
Check it out. Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways.
but
Um.
of
Yeah.
this list, this is a great category.
Yeah. So yeah. So it sounds like you agree that I don't even need to ask the question. I could just jump right to it. You agree that this was worthy of the writing nomination.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah. I definitely agree too.
But I think it deserved its spot in a couple of these other categories too.
What are some categories would you nominate this in?
Well, 80s Academy, not the most progressive or independent film leaning, notorious by all of the winners in Best Picture being massive epics or domestic dramas with famous
Yep.
people in them. And if you look at the picture director duo of this year, it's a particularly Reagan-esque set of winners, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
But you know, I like Driving Miss Daisy and Born on the 4th of July for their own reasons. I don't think either of them are bad. But certainly I would put Soderbergh in Best Director over Kenneth Branagh for sure. I don't know why we needed to nominate Henry V.
Oh, they love Shakespeare, but yeah.
It's just lame. I'd probably put it in Best Picture. I would probably put the Claudia or whatever her name is that I keep forgetting in Best Supporting
Cynthia.
Actress.
Yeah.
Cynthia. I don't know if it needed other nominations just because it isn't the most showy, and not that it isn't very effective in what it's doing technically, but I don't know if outside of Above the Line it really warrants anything. But I certainly would give it 4 or 5 nominations total.
Yeah, I agree with you there because it's a very subdued film, but it's not like not nominating this in the below the line categories isn't a knock against the film. It's just that like it does a good job and does what what it's doing, but it's really, as we stated in the review, it's more about the performances and the ideas and the writing that make it stand out, if that makes sense.
For sure.
But I have no issue with this as like a Best Picture nominee. Director I would have been okay with. Hell, if you nominated the actresses who played Cynthia and Anne, I'm okay with them because they're both really good in their roles. I don't know if I would have given James Spader a nomination because I did think he was really good in the movie, but not enough to where it's like, oh, we need to nominate him for lead actor. But if he got in, I'd be like, okay, no complaints.
Yeah, he's. I probably do like him more than some of these nominees, but this is a very competitive Best Actor list.
Yeah.
With a lot of big performances.
Mm-hmm.
All 5 of these men are Oscar winners, but I think.
Well, except for one.
Well, kind of.
For the time being, we'll see what happens.
But,
who knows? Maybe it's just maybe it doesn't happen, but we'll find out.
But it's a list of 5 very famous, very accoladed men. And I don't know if James Spader is quite a Tom Cruise or a Morgan Freeman or a Robin Williams.
No.
So it would be a bit hard for him to squeeze into the lineup.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, especially when you're giving... I remember also, I think at the time, that was, like, the Academy we have nowadays is a lot different than it was in 89, 90s, because they favored a lot more on the... I mean, the Academy nowadays still favors flashier performances, but they... In this particular year, they preferred, like, biopics. With, like, Born on the 4th of July, My Left Foot... I'm trying to think like
The Fabulous Baker Boys. Michelle Pfeiffer almost won
Best
Actress.
Yep.
I think Music Box with Jessica Lange is no, I don't think so. But
yeah, but it's still like a lot of showy performances still. And they were all. I'm pretty sure the lead actor nominees, at least the ones that were nominated, were also like box office hits. Not saying that Sex, Lies, and Videotapes wasn't. It was a box office hit. It's just that
it just didn't make Born on the 4th of July levels of hundreds of millions of dollars
or popularity too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it'll be yeah, but I have no issue with this. With you did so well and so eloquently, Sam, on the nominations that this film uh would have been great for. Yeah, I really, but going back to the original screenplay lineup, though, I would argue, and I'm not sure if you would agree with me on this. I think in any other year, I could see a world where if you took out, like, let's say you had all these films spread out in other years, maybe they actually might have had a better shot at winning their screenplay prize. I mean, Do the Right Thing, especially, I think would have won in today's field of.
Right, but it's a bit different.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, no, of course it's different. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, they really did not throw much of a bone to Do the Right Thing.
yeah, it was just him and Danny Aiello, and they nominated the white guy in that movie. They didn't nominate any people of color. Even with Black Klansman years later, they're like, we'll nominate this for picture, and we'll give Spike Lee his Oscar for adapted screenplay. But who are we going to nominate in the acting categories? The white guy, Adam Driver.
Naturally.
Yeah. Oh well.
Do the Right Thing is really so good too. It's been a minute since I've seen it. It's a hard one to watch again.
Which one?
Do the Right Thing, but
Yeah.
really a total landmark movie, of course.
Yeah. Even back when I was at Stevenson, I'm pretty sure we were instructed to watch this, a part of our class, as like one of the movies, like, everyone needs to watch this. And I was like, well, I already own the Criterion Blu-ray of this, so Bob Schunkel. I have it here somewhere behind me, but yeah, it's yeah, but no, it's a really good lineup. And again, I haven't seen Crimes and Misdemeanors yet. I will try my best to fix that soon. But even without that film, this is like a really good screenplay lineup, and it's like it's really good, and it's one where I'm like, I'm trying to even think if we ever had a screenplay lineup this good since then, especially in like the
It's
original screenplay
great.
category. Yeah, but yeah, but no, that's
I'm gonna look through,
okay.
but maybe it might be a bit of a task.
Yeah, because it's kind of tough to really find one where it's like a 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, like, really great
I mean,
lineup.
99 is pretty fantastic, where it's American Beauty, Being John Malkovich, Magnolia, The Sixth Sense, and Topsy Turvy. And I wouldn't say Topsy Turvy is amazing, but it is a Mike Lee movie, and he's pretty
Yeah,
damn good at his job.
yeah,
So that would be one of them. When the year where we have Talk to Her, Far from Heaven, Gangs of New York, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and Y Tu Mamá También. Not like consistently amazing, but pretty damn good.
yeah. But yeah, it's rare. As you said. Um, yeah. So I don't really know what else to really say, or if I have anything else to add on to the awards discussion, because it pretty much speaks for itself. Like, this was a major success with awards and Oscar. Well, it got an Oscar nomination for the screenplay nod, but it made the money. And if nothing else, this definitely put Steven Soderbergh on the map as a
It
filmmaker.
totally was a launch pad. It was the
Yeah,
launch pad.
yeah,
Rarely is a directorial debut this successful.
yeah. Was this a launch pad for James Spader and Annie McDowell,
Um,
or had they already been like popular in other things?
I am not sure. Annie McDowell had definitely been in other movies, but I think this was her big breakout. And then James Spader, yeah, no, it seems that both of them had real breakthroughs here.
Oh, and I'm also reading here, Annie McDowell was in a movie about 5 years prior to this, Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, but she was dubbed by soon-to-be honorary Oscar recipient Glenn Close.
And it's also called Tarzan, the Greystone, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes.
Yeah.
I think we can gauge what that movie's quality is in comparison to Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Yeah. Wasn't yeah, and also I'm pretty sure one of the writers on this was like, I'm gonna take like a ghost writing credit on this, like change it to like a pseudonym or something, because I guess he hated it that much. Uh, so that alone is like, well, okay, so we know what kind of movie we're in for with this. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, no, Sex Lies and Videotapes. Yeah, a great launch pad for the director and stars, and just a pretty good movie. Like I said, I just uh yeah, once again, Sam, I really do appreciate you picking this out for the show to come back on. It was a good discussion we had, I would say.
I agree. Glad to
Yeah,
bring it into a limelight.
awesome. So unless is there anything else you want to talk about with the award section? Is there anything else I missed? No.
Don't think so.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I guess we're just gonna take a bow, and we'll pull the curtains down on this for the time being. And like I said, once again, Sam, thank you for coming back on the show to discuss Sex Lies and Videotapes. And if you would like to follow me and the show through Linktree under at Matthew995, where you can follow along on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same site, I provide a link for where you can listen to more episodes of our Lone Screenplay Nominee podcast show, including one that Sam and I already had done a couple years back on Happy Go Lucky, another Mike Lee film we had covered. Yeah, that was a good discussion as well. I felt. So yeah, check that episode out as well, and you can also check out my written work on Substack as well, where I'm writing out some of my well, yeah, just check that out for all my written work I write there personally. I've also become a guest writer for the Awards Garage, where I'll be writing more reviews for the site. As of this recording, we're recording this the day after 4th of July. I just uploaded my next like retro review of sorts with Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So check that out if you can. It's on the site as well for Awards Garage, and yeah, check them out and support the written work I have, and just leave me a comment, let me know what you think of my writing, and if there's any improvements I could do, just let me know. And I also want to clarify to our audience, especially for newcomers, we also have our Patreon page where you can check out more of our bonus episodes on After Hours, and membership is only $3 a month. If you're not interested or invested in becoming a Patreon member, or can't afford to support our site, just pass the word along on as the show is run by me and me only. So any and all support would be very much appreciated, and I'd be very grateful if you guys could do that. Because more eyes on the show raises more awareness for the podcast as is. So thanks again. And with that said, in the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.